So now we're up to the conclusion. And as you remember in the very first video presentation I did, I told you that each part has a certain percent and the conclusion is the smallest part. It's only 5%. So it's really the quickest part of your speech. And basically, when it comes to the conclusion, you're doing two main things. You're trying to wrap it up. You never want to introduce anything new in the conclusion. So how do you go about wrapping it up? Well, you're going to summarize and review your main points. And then the second thing you're going to do is you're going to try to leave them with some sort of an impression, or maybe it's a call to action. You remember the Jimmy V video or the speech at the end? What he did is he tried to encourage people to give money, to the charity. So he was trying to give them a call to action. So what are some other important things that you need to remember when it comes to the overall speech? When people are listening to your speech, the thing they're going to remember the most is your introduction and your conclusion. And it seems kind of funny because that's, 85% of your speech then people really don't listen to. They kind of zone out. So the important thing to remember about introductions and conclusions, that's where you're going to get them to remember the main points. So that's why you preview them in the introduction and you review them in the conclusion. It's also when you want to have your best eye contact. So you want to pretty much memorize your introduction and your conclusion, but then the body of your speech, the 85% of your speech, that's, the main part of it, you don't need to memorize. You can use note cards. Characteristics of a good voice. You want your voice to have clear, not scratchy quality. Your volume sometimes will be loud. Sometimes it'll go quiet, depending. Pitch is how high or low your voice goes. The main thing is that you don't end all of your sentences with your voice going up, because that would signify a question. Unless you want there to be a question, try not to end each sentence with your voice going up. Rate basically is how fast and how slow you talk. All right, when it comes to a PowerPoint, there are some rules to keep in mind. And if you go back and look at all of the PowerPoints that I've done so far, I have followed these as far as how big my letters are. So for the title slide, and there's only one of them, 60 points. It's huge, I know, but that's how big they should be because you have to consider people who are sitting farther back. Headings and text. So the headings, there should only be one heading on each slide, anywhere between 40 to 48. And the words that you put on your screen would be 30 to 38, anywhere in between there. Most of the time you're not using any words, and so this shouldn't be a big deal because, if you're not going to have words on there, who cares if they're what size they are, if you're only going to have one or two words. So keeping it simple, you want to keep your slides very simple. Use more pictures, a lot less words. Use bullets to try to keep things in, right up front in people's minds so they know what you're talking about, the important words. And don't ever use all upper or all lowercase. Try to use a mix of them. All right, and when it comes to color, just a few things to keep in mind. You never want to use red with green. It makes it very difficult for people who are colorblind because they cannot distinguish between those colors. Unless you're using something with Christmas, you should avoid using a red background with green words or a green background with red words. And last but not least, don't ever use blue with purple. You can tell even when you're sitting up close that it kind of makes you feel like your eyes are dizzy, unless of course it's to describe boo.